Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The Honorable our lecturer, Mr. Dr. Kaharudin, SIP, MHub. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself. My name is Mutia Ismail. I'm from English Education Department in PBIA. This video was made to fulfill the mid assignment that was given. This video is divided into several sessions, namely opening, discussion where I will discuss the material, and then the final session is conclusion. Okay, first, what is phonetics? According to dictionary.com, defines phonetics as the science of study of speech sounds and their production, transmission, and reception, and their analysis, classification, and transcription. According to Ladefuge, 1975, state phonetics in concert with speech sounds that occur in language of the world. Okay, next is phonetics as a study of speech sounds. Speech sound is plainly a sound which is uttered within given language. In other words, a sound that comes out of the person's mouth when the one speaks that represents his/her spoken language. An example word is book. It has three sounds, that is B is representative of letter B, U is representative of letter U, and K is representative of letter K. Okay? Phonetics is a study of speech organ articulators, are the organ of speech that people use for producing the speech sound of language. They include the lips, teeth, alveolar ridge, hard palate, soft palate, velum, uvula, glottis, and various parts of the tongue, middle, and back. Okay, next is phonetics as a study of speech production. Speech sound production refers the process of using articulators to produce sounds, which is started from flowing the air provided by the lung. The air then goes through the glottis in the larynx that then is modified by the vocal tract or vocal apparatus into different qualities of sound, that is consonant and vowels. For example, when someone wants to make a P sounds, he has to move his two lips come together tightly and then blocks the air flow for a moment. Okay, next is problems in producing consonant sounds. The problem about producing consonant sounds, the one problems encountered by the Indonesian learners of English in producing English sound in the produced sound V, which is phonetically known as the voice labiodental fricative. The Indonesian learners tend to make errors by replacing with V, which is also known as voice labiodental fricative, since the sound V shares the same place and manner of articulation that is labiodental fricative. And next, the problem about producing sound the. For the learners, this sound is difficult to produce because it doesn't exist in Indonesian sound system. When the learners need to make these sound errors seems inevitable. They tend to make diphthong when they articulating sounds the by substituting it with sound the, t, and as well as t. Okay, the next problem is the problem about producing sounds the. Many learners of English find it difficult to articulate this sound. In the learners' attempt to articulate sound the, they tend to deviate into some possible sounds, that is t. The problem about producing sound t. The Indonesian learners of English tend to produce deviations. This research reports that there are commonly two deviations done by the learners regarding these particular sounds, that is the replacements of the with ch. The problems about producing sounds j. The Indonesian learners of English find it difficult to articulate. Consequently, they frequently make four kinds of deviations in their effort to pronounce these sounds, that is the replacement of sounds j with j. Okay, next problem is the problem about producing sound j. A problem for the learners in English pronunciation because it doesn't exist in Indonesian phonetics system that the learners tend to deviate in their effort to pronounce it. Generally, there are 10 deviations made by learners when articulating these sounds. The deviation consists of the replacement of j with J. Next, there's problem about producing sound Z. A problem to the learners is a sound Z. This sound is also known as voice alveolar fricative. Many learners make deviations when producing this sound. They tend to replace sound Z with sound S, as in the word result. Okay, next problem is the problem about producing English vowels. The problem about producing sound E. In articulating this sound, they tend to replace sound E with in the initial position and in the medial position. The replacement of sound E in the initial position can be seen in the word examine. In English, this word should be pronounced examine, but the learners replace sound without which result in examine. Next, the problem about sound E. It is called long vowels because it is pronounced a little bit longer than short vowels. When the learners pronounce this sound, they tend to make deviations by replacing the sound with sound E. Next, the problem about producing sound U. In their effort to pronounce these sounds, the learners tend to replace with sound U. The replacement of sound with is found in the pronunciation of the word general, in which the learners tend to pronounce it as instead of as the correct one. And the next problem is the problem about producing sound O. O. The problematic of learners tend to make deviations when producing these sounds by replacing it with sound U. For example, when the learners are required to pronounce the word good, they tend to pronounce it as good instead of good. Okay, next is the problem about producing sound This error can be found when the learners are required to pronounce the word multiple. In English, this word ought to be pronounced multiple. However, the learners tend to pronounce it as multiple. Next, the problem about producing sounds When the learners are required to pronounce the sound, they make deviations by replacing it with sounds as a sound Next, the problem about producing exchanging sound O and O. When the learners are required to articulate it, many of them deviate their correct articulation by replacing it with sound O. For example, in articulating the word knowledge, the learners commonly pronounce it as knowledge instead of knowledge. Next, the problem about producing sound E. In their effort to pronounce the sound, they tend to replace it with sound E, and the replacement commonly occurs in the medial position. The deviations of replacing it can be found when the learners are required to pronounce the word promote. This word is pronounced promote instead of promote. Next problem is the problem about producing diphthong A. The learners replace diphthong A with E as identify. In English, this word should be pronounced identify, but the learners tend to pronounce it as identify. The problem about producing A. The learners find it difficult to make the sounds of diphthong A. For the sound, the learners tend to replace it with sounds A. For example, as the learners are required to pronounce the word make, they don't pronounce it as make, but this word is pronounced make by the learners. Next, the problem about producing diphthong E. In the learners' effort to pronounce this diphthong, they make deviations by replacing it with sounds U. These deviations can be found as the learners are required to pronounce the word obvious. In English, this word is pronounced obvious, but is then pronounced obvious by learners. Next is the problem about producing diphthong O. The learners should pronounce this sound as in the word over, which should be pronounced over. They tend to deviate the sound producing by replacing sounds O with sound O. which has made the pronunciation of the word become over. Next is the benefits of phonetics as a study of English sound initiated by giving information on the problems encountered by the Indonesian learners of English in producing English sound. This information is derived from research results of the context of Indonesian learners. Next is place of articulation. The place of articulation refers to the location in the vocal tract where the articulators tongue, teeth, lips, or glottis make contact to create consonant sounds. This concept is crucial in understanding how consonants are formed and how they differ from one another. There are 8 places of articulation in the English language, which are categorized into 2 main groups, coronal and dorsal consonants. Coronal consonants are formed using the tongue and are further divided into 5 subcategories. There is bilabial, labiodental, dental, alveolar, and post-alveolar. Bilabial consonants are formed by blocking or constricting airflow by bringing the lips together. Example include P and B. Next, labiodental. Labiodental consonants are formed by curling the lower lip back and raising it to touch the upper teeth. Example F in the word like fro. Next, dental consonants are formed by placing the tongue tip against and the upper teeth. Example include T in the word thick. Next is alveolar. Alveolar consonants are formed by raising the tongue to the alveolar ridge where the teeth meet the gums. Example including the T in the word like tap. Next is post-alveolar. Post-alveolar consonants are formed by retracting the tongue back just a bit from the alveolar ridge. Example include the T in the word of tooth. And then is dorsal. Dorsal consonants are formed using the tongue and are further divided into 2 subcategories. There is palatal and velar. Palatal consonants are formed by the tongue contact with the hard palate and the alveolar ridge. Example including the ch, like in the word gender. And velar consonants are formed by the tongue's contact with the soft palate. Example include the k in the word go. Next is there is a glottal consonant. Glottal consonants are formed by the airflow cutting in the vocal cords. The only example of a glottal consonant in English is h or he in words like hi. Next is manner of articulation. The manner of articulation refers to the way in which the articulators release the airflow to create a consonant sound. This concept is also important in understanding how consonants are formed and how they differ from one another. There are 6 manner of articulation is stopper plosive. This manner involves building pressure of air and then releasing it, resulting in a sudden burst of air. Example including the k in the word kick. Next is fricative. This manner involves the articulators creating a narrow channel for airflow, causing friction and producing a hissing sound. Example including the v in the word of fine. Next is nasal. This manner involves the airflow passing through the nasal cavity, producing nasal sounds. Example including the words of m in the words of like mat. Next is liquidal. This manner involves the airflow passing through the tongue and the lips, producing a liquid sound. Example in the words of red, as the word like red. Next is approximant. This manner involves the airflow passing through the tongue and the lips, producing a sound that is closer to a vowel. Example in the word of whip, like in the word wind. Next is tap or flap. This manner involves the tongue striking the alveolar ridge, producing a taper or flap sound. Example like word again in the words like red. Next is Distinctive features in consonant sounds. In consonant sound refer to the unique characteristic that distinguish one consonant sound from another. These features can include aspects such as position of the tongue, lips, and jaw during articulation, as well as degree of voicing or aspiration involved. Understanding these features is crucial for accurate pronunciation of English consonant. For example, the consonant sounds p and b are distinguished by the position of the lips. The p sound involves a more prominent lip closure, while the b sound involves a more relaxed lip position. Similarly, the t and the sounds differ in position of the tongue, with the t sound involving a more forward tongue position and the d sound involving a more backward tongue position. Next is identifying distinctive features. To identify distinctive features in consonant sounds, one can analyze the articulation process involved in producing each sound. This includes observing the position of the tongue, lips, and jaw, as well as the degree of voicing or aspiration. For instance, the k sound involves a more backward tongue position and more closed jaw, while the g sound involves a more forward tongue position and more open jaw. Next is distinctive features of consonant pairs. Consonant pairs such as p and b, t and d, k and g are distinguished by the distinctive features mentioned earlier. These pairs are known as voiceless pairs, where the voice sound involves vibration of the vocal cords and the voiceless sound does not. For example, the p sound is voiceless while the b sound is voiced. This difference in voicing is a key distinctive feature that distinguishes the consonant pairs. Next is consonant letters and their consonant sound. Consonant letters in the English alphabet represent specific consonant sound. For example, the letter P represents the P sound, which is a voiceless bilabial stop. Similarly, the letter T represents the T sound, which is a voiceless alveolar stop. Understanding the relationship between consonant letters and their corresponding sounds is essential for accurate pronunciation in English. Okay, next, why students need phonetics exercise? Students need phonetics exercise to improve the pronunciation of English consonant sound. This exercise helps students develop the correct articulation of consonant sounds, which is crucial for effective communication in English. By practicing phonetics exercise, students can enhance their ability to accurately produce consonant sounds, leading to improved overall pronunciation. Next, what instruction students need to do when doing phonetics exercise? When doing phonetics exercise, students should follow these steps. First is listen. Listen to the correct pronunciation of these consonant sounds. Next is observe. Observe the articulation process involved in producing the consonant sounds. Next is practice. Practice articulating the consonant sounds by repeating words that contain the sounds. Next is repeat. Repeat the process for each consonant sounds, focusing on the distinctive features that distinguish its sounds. Next, exercise for producing all English consonant sounds. Here I have exercise for producing all English consonant sounds with at least 10 words for each sound and articulating the sound as naturally as possible. First is P, like pet, pup, pig, pocket, palm, pain, pap, and pour. Next is B. Practice words like bat, bed, bum, ball, bar, bass. Next is T. Practice words like tap, top, talk, tongue, tail, tall. Next is D. Practice words like dad, dub, and duck. Next is K. Practice words like cat, kid, cock, core, cane, or calm. Next is G. Practice words like gat, Gale, gug, and next is f. Practice word like fat, foot, fung, fell, or fit. Next is v. Practice word like fat, verb, fall, vest, or for. Next is s. Practice word like sit, sat, saw, sarn, song, sail. Next is z. Practice word like zat, zit, zong, zel, zol, or zes. By following this exercise and focusing on the distinctive features of each consonant sound, students can improve their pronunciation of English consonant and enhance their overall communication skills. What are common phonetic exercises for practicing English consonant sounds? How can students improve their pronunciation of English consonant sounds? Okay, I think that's all of my theory that I explained today about what is phonetics. Phonetics as a study speech sounds, speech organ, speech production, and problem in producing consonant sounds, problem producing vowel sounds, benefits given by phonetics to cope with the problems, and place of articulation, manner of articulation, and what is distinctive features, how to identify distinctive features, the distinctive features of consonant pairs, consonant letters, and their consonant sounds, and why students need phonetics exercise, what instruction to student, and the last is the exercise of producing all English consonant sounds. Recommendation to teachers and learners of English is, for teachers, first is incorporate phonetics awareness early. Second is use visual and audio aids. Third is interactive and engaging exercise. Fourth is emphasize voice and voiceless distinctions. And five, provide individual feedback. And last, incorporate phonetics into regular lessons. And for learners, I think active listening and observe articulation, practice consistently, record. Maybe you can record and review, and then utilize phonetics transcription and engage in pronunciation drills. I think that's all for this mid assignment. I would like to apologize if I had mistake, and I would like to thank many of my friends, especially Nafsil, Aziza, Widya, Mary, and Jay, who have supported me and helped me a lot. That's all. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.